This is camp.
I'm Bryce, here with Oscar, the 5th place finisher and 5th jury member of Big Brother 19, and it's about time. So Oscar, let's get right into it. The morning after, tell me your thoughts. Why are you sitting here right now?
Well, sadly, I was eliminated. It was a long run. I'm surprised I made it this far, but I feel like it was time for me to go after being chased since week 1.
So I know through the game there was definitely a sense of almost an unspoken sense of boys versus girls and that kind of thing. Would you say you were most closely aligned with the boys there towards the end?
I was most closely aligned with the gays.
Okay.
And it was just mainly me, Josh, and Dash.
Okay.
And I was also closer with the girls, like Maddie and Meredith.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like I'm in between.
Okay. Because I know Meredith mentioned that, she felt pretty close with you throughout the end game. Would you say you kind of reciprocated that kind of feeling? Feeling she was one of your closer allies, definitely?
Yeah, she was definitely one of my closest allies, and she was very important in the fact that she saved me a couple of times, and that's why I made it this far. But I also feel like if we hadn't teamed up the moment that we had to take Ali out, we wouldn't be in the place that we end up being with.
So what do you think was one of your strongest game moves in the time that you played?
I feel aligning myself with Meredith because I clearly identify her as a strong player. And also, I feel like Josh was very likable by everyone. So I just kind of stick together with them. And also Maddie, like she was really helpful throughout the beginning of my career.
Absolutely. Okay, if you had the ability from the moment you were evicted to go back to any point in the game, to hit the rewind button, and change either a conversation you had, a vote you made, a competition you played in, what would you change and why?
Okay, so I knew when it was time for me to go that it was when I was about to be evicted, but and I made peace with that, so I was happy. And then the veto competition happened, where I was this close to win veto, and then I was gonna be able to pull myself out of it and keep in the competition. So in that moment that I was the first one that I was about to win, and then my ping pong ball fell off and I missed it, that's when I was pissed. Like I went from being calm, like accepting my fate, to now being like, man, I could have pulled myself
You're
out.
that close to doing it, right?
That's the moment that I could turn back time and just focus, because I wasn't planning on winning, but that was the moment that I felt like, oh, maybe I have a shot, and of course, it blew.
Right. Okay, so in the famous movie Click, starring Adam Sandler, there is obviously a remote that controls the world, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So if you had that capability in the remote and you were able to mute one of your fellow house guests, who would you mute and why?
Oh, that's a tough question, because so my memory is so bad that I forgot half of the competitors already. And this is not shade, this is like I have a problem like with memorization. But let me try to remember. Maybe you can rewind this part while I think. Yeah, I would just pause this whole axe in the knee situation. Like it was unnecessary. I know it was funny and everything, but what? Like.
So you mute Derek.
I will mute Derek. Yeah.
That's fair. Okay. And then my final question: are you familiar with a lot of Adam Sandler movies?
A little bit. I used to be, and then I got over really fast.
Okay.
But I'm familiar with some of them.
If you had to describe your gameplay based on an Adam Sandler movie,
okay,
what movie would you pick?
What is that with Drew Barrymore?
50 First Dates?
50 First Dates.
Uh-huh.
Because I'm Drew Barrymore. Like every week, I would just instantly forget who I was playing with, who were my alliances, the names. I will forget every single thing.
Okay.
So yeah, that's my movie. And I'm sorry, this is not me being trying to be like, oh, funny, like, oh, I don't even know your name, but truly, I don't know. I forget.
Oscar
fair.
famously said, "I vote to evict the other one."
The other one.
One. And yeah, it's because in the moment, if you ask me quick, my memory is not gonna do it. And yeah, I'm Drew Barrymore.
That's fair. I mean, it all happens really fast, and it's a lot of these. Like, this is your first time meeting a lot of these people, so it's tough. Well, you heard it here. I'm Bryce here with Oscar, the 5th place finisher and 5th jury member of Big Brother 19, and it's about time.
Bye.
So, I'm Bryce here with Rita, the 4th place finisher and 2nd to last jury member of Big Brother 19. Rita, tell us about why you're sitting here in this chair with me.
Funny thing, I think towards the end, I looked around the room and I was like, everyone I'm aligned to, wants to work with me, but I knew there came a point where it just came down to how they were perceived jury. I was the only person that hadn't been on the block at all. Even during games where we had the opportunity to take each other out, no one really touched my blocks till the end. I think going against me socially, even if certain people maybe have certain better gameplays, my social game stood for was, even my HOHs, both were handed to me because people trusted me.
Yeah.
So I think just, I stand with Meredith, like, her game was amazing. She was able to save her safe over and over and over, but we're comparing apples to oranges at that point. And so, like,
Absolutely.
do you want to have someone who had a more similar game to you, or someone who had, like, a stronger social game? If she's lacking a social game, do you want to go against someone who had a strong social game?
Right.
That's the best I can figure it. I'm not completely certain, but I think that's what it was. I don't think it was necessarily anything outside of, like, you would be difficult to win against.
Right. So you said throughout the entire game that you found a lot of importance and a lot of value in making sure that you had the numbers, making sure there was a lot of power in numbers. Did you find that was a pretty consistent tactic that you had, or was that something that you realized maybe wasn't always advantageous for you?
No, not advantageous at all. I think because I'm the only one who really saw it that way. For me, especially coming into a group of people that I don't know anyone.
Right.
I am literally a stranger to everyone, and I know that some people have played together before, and I know some people have connections, and as much as they want to be open to playing with new people, where you have trust already established, what's this new girl going to give you?
Right.
All I can give you is facts and say, like, hey, safety's in these numbers. But at the end of the day, a lot of people saw safety in their alliance. And where I tried to make alliances because of numbers, that wasn't a good enough reason oftentimes.
Right.
So I had to quickly adjust. So if I wanted a girls' alliance in the beginning, and all the girls were like, oh, I mean, yeah, I'll take the safety from that, but I'm not going to commit to, like, working with that. I was like, okay, never mind. And then I was approached by Josh, you know, very early, I think week 1 or week 2, where it's like, hey, I have these 2 guys who are willing to work with me, and they're cool with you. Do you want to work? And who are you cool with? And I said, I have these 2 girls, we can be an alliance of 6. And that worked most of the weeks leading up. And every so often we had to pull another person in maybe, but that solid 6 worked. And then I just kept, like, adjusting. So numbers definitely played a role for me as far as, like, where I would give my trust. So I knew a lot of times if I asked, like, hey, like, I don't feel comfortable, but even if I didn't feel comfortable, if I saw the numbers were there, I was like, I can be as comfortable as I possibly can be this week, and that's enough for now.
Right. So say you had the ability, you know, from the moment you exited Big Brother house with your eviction, you had the ability to go back in time, hit the rewind button, and change any conversation, any competition, any vote, anything like that. What would you change and why?
Here's the honest truth. I'm not really sure, because there was a moment where I looked around and the 7 people who were left were the 6 people I worked with in that alliance with Josh and I, and then Meredith, who I really wanted to work with because she gave me a different perspective to the game.
Right.
Where I believed in, like, working in large numbers and, like, being completely transparent. She said, I have these close relationships and I'm going to trust the information that they give me, even if it's not in the numbers. We didn't always agree necessarily on moves. We had multiple conversations where we saw it very differently, but, like, we were honest and transparent with one another, and as much as I made like Jimmy, I'm competitive and I want to win. Like I love the game she played. And even with the social game I had, I think I still respect her games. I don't think I would trade anything.
Okay.
I really don't. I liked working alongside with Josh. If anything, you know what? This is the one thing I would change. It's more so about my own social game, really. I would have talked more to Desh and Oscar. I think at one point, once Josh was gone, most of my gameplay was working with them because of Josh and that connection we had. And so once that was severed, I knew I had them, but I didn't feel like I had them.
Right.
So I think I would go back and like try to like establish more of a relationship there, more trust there. I knew they trusted when I said I did or didn't do something, but outside of that, they didn't trust me for a number. They didn't trust me to choose them over a girl because I was so girl lines in the beginning. But again, it was more about the number than the girls.
Right.
You know.
So you mentioned that it was more about the numbers than the girls, and you know we've seen throughout the season that topic of the girls' alliance has kind of been brought up a lot.
Yeah.
Which you know is always a good idea in theory, right? But you rarely ever see it come into fruition.
Yeah.
Is that a choice that you made strategically, or maybe more, I guess, wanting to kind of see a girl at the end?
I mean, you're wrong. I would have been happy to see any good player at the end.
Right, absolutely.
For me, it was purely, I remember at one point sitting at the table and thinking, I was like, I've talked to a lot of girls and few guys at this point. And I asked one of the girls I was working with, like, hey, would you mind counting, like, the number of guys and girls? Because I know I'm going to be out here talking. And, like, just let me know later. We started with 8 girls and 6 guys. I was like, okay. For someone as who I don't know anyone, I feel comfortable. I'm a girl's girl. So it wasn't even about, I was like, I know that we won't be able to like keep this till the end. I know it won't be like get out all 6 guys and the 8 girls will be there, but for now when I have to make a choice and maybe for at least like another 2, if you feel the same, we have the numbers here to stay safe until we figure out who you actually want to work with, whether it's these 2, these 3, this one and that one outside of there.
Absolutely.
I found out the first week it was not going to be all girls to the end.
Right.
Because I told pretty much every girl that came out to meet me that I was willing to work with the girls. And then I believe her name is Kim. Liz took off, what's his name? Derek. It's like the wild card guy.
Yes.
And so in that moment I was kind of like, oh wait, there are dynamics at work here, again, that I'm not aware of. And as much as I'd like to like keep these numbers strong for girls, I'm the only one really fighting for that.
Right.
So I have to be willing to adjust and let that go.
Right.
I'd like to see you there, but like if that's not what we're all gonna put the effort in towards, that's okay. That's a-okay.
And I think that's a good place. Sometimes in these games, it's kind of hard to find a good starting point of, especially because since considering you were the very first HOH, it can be hard to find a justifiable reason to put up 2 people.
Yeah.
The first week, you know.
And on top of it, I mean, just even like outside of numbers, which for me has been a driving force, which I maybe need to reevaluate later. It's also physical threat. I know compared to the girls, I am going to be one of the stronger ones. I can't say that when I go next to like most of the guys here.
Right.
Maybe. And also, I know some of them had an idea of the games we play. I had no idea the games we play. I was like, are they going to make us run across the field and like find a flag? Or like, I don't know if I can like foot race any of these guys or outlift some of these guys or out something. Turns out most of the games were like pretty fair.
Right.
But I didn't know that.
Right.
So in my mind, it was like, okay, this feels like, I remember saying in the beginning, I want to keep the people who keep me warm in the circle. It felt like the thing that made the most sense.
Right.
But I also understood very quickly, maybe not. So. Yeah.
My last question for you, I've asked I want to say most everybody this question. It's kind of a shady one, so I want your honest answer.
Deal.
Honest. So if you had the remote in the hit movie Click starring Adam Sandler, and you could mute one of your castmates, who would it be and why? You've gotten a range of answers, so.
Yeah. That's hard because for me, I think the social part was such a big part of my game. And like, again, strangely enough, not strangely, I get why people trusted me.
Mm-hmm.
So like everything someone told me was helpful. I think. And it's more so, here's the thing, it's nothing against her game. I think it's more so to calm my paranoia I had. I would mute Allie.
Okay.
There was a moment where we were working together in a group of girls, but we weren't the two communicating. And when we did, when I would say things like, I need A, B, and C, like, are we good? Let's talk here. I saw her more so talking about her next week and then versus like what I needed immediately to feel comfortable in that alliance with her. So I think maybe the game honestly would have taken a completely different turn. Like honestly, Meredith would have been gone. It was the week where we got Allie out and Meredith stayed,
Right.
which was such a blindside. So I think I would have muted her. Because maybe for some reason I feel like instead of her talking about the power moves that we were going to potentially make, I would just be like, okay, this is what's happening for now and just cruise with it. Outside of that, everything I was told was information and was valuable. Even if it wasn't what I wanted to hear. Like I said, me and Meredith often weren't on the same page, but it was valuable information for me to understand where I stood with her and with the people who I was still comfortable.
Exactly.
So that was the one time I can think where it just made me go like, okay, we got it hard left. So I said left and right.
I mean, it is. My watch is dead. That's how late it is. It's almost 2:00 in the morning, so I completely understand. Well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
You heard it here. I'm Bryce, here with Rita, the 4th evicted house guest and 2nd to last jury member, and it's about time. Do the honors. Queen, Rita Queen.
Good night.
Tiffany.
Nice.
So I'm here with Tiffany, the 3rd place finisher and final jury member of BB19. So tell me, why are you sitting in that chair?
Well, because obviously not the most popular here, so
What do you mean by that?
I'm just kidding. I'm sitting here because honestly, because I played a scrappy game.
Okay.
The last 2 people that were here, Meredith and Desh, they played a good, like, smooth, solid game. Very honest, and I played like who I'm not. So I played like a very scrappy, behind the scenes, didn't tell a lot of people what I was thinking, saying. There's a lot of lying manipulativeness on my part, which is not typically who I am. And so I just played a very scrappy game, and I just kind of got really tired after a while of doing it. I'm like, I can't do this anymore. But I had to keep doing it because I already kept like lying about different things to where I had to keep it going. So I truly am sitting right here because I didn't make the relationship with Meredith that I should have in the beginning, but it was simply out of like a lot of lying and deceiving and manipulation that I didn't think I needed to do with her.
So I noticed your game, you like to say that you held your cards close to your chest, right? Would you say that's very similar to the type of person you are in real life outside the game, or is that, like you said, one of those different personas that you just flip on?
No, outside the game, I'm not somebody who holds my cards close to me at all, and I think that showed also through my game. Like when I like knew somebody that I like liked and had like that alliance with, I did not hold my cards. Like I remember when I was the anonymous HOH, I was like, I'm not gonna tell anybody, I'm not gonna tell everybody. And
Iconic.
Yeah, iconic. And no, like outside of the game, that's I don't hold my cards close to me. People pretty much can read me like a book, and I'm somebody who just is a very open book about things. So.
Okay, so you have the ability to, rewind from the moment you were evicted. Meredith, since you're gone, it was Meredith since you.
Yes.
Okay, yes. If you could rewind to any point in the game to change any conversation you had, any competition, any vote, what would you change?
Yeah, I would. The only thing that I would probably change is my relationship with Meredith. It is very outside of my character to not give somebody the time of day, and I know it sounds bad, but like for my job, that's like my job, is to be with people, is to walk with people, is to talk with people, and so it comes very natural to me. But when I first started playing the game, I started to, I was like trying to pick and choose who I needed to like, which is not who I typically am. I typically am somebody who is like, everybody, I'm talking to everybody, I'm like
Right.
bringing the outcast in, I'm like talking amongst people very candidly. And so I think I just didn't play that well with Meredith. And that's where I would have probably changed things, like when she came to me, instead of me just being like kind of stiff arm, because I saw how other people were stiff arming her,
Right.
instead just like being open and that kind of thing.
Right. So who would you say that Rita was your closest ally going into the end?
Absolutely not.
Okay.
Nope. And that's where I'm saying, like, I played a very scrappy game. I played what was good for me in those moments. I was allies with Josh. I was allies with like multiple people that will show up in my diary. That I just played people, essentially. I just played the emotions of people and was like, I got you, that kind of thing.
That's the name of the game.
Oh, 100%. 100%. But I think that because of that, like, I was able to play it well because I tricked a lot of people and making them believe that I was their number one ally, when realistically they were only my number one ally if I needed them to be my number one ally.
So once Taylor has this all edited, beautiful, funny, campy, and you watch it back, what is something that you think you might fast forward through?
Do you ever watch The Bachelor or Bachelorette?
Yes.
Okay, do you remember the season with, Matt? Did you watch the season with Matt?
Maybe.
The tall black guy, super handsome,
I think I might have seen a few clips of it.
Okay, so there's a girl in there, she calls herself Queen Victoria. I'm Queen Victoria. She is annoying as hell. She is talking shit about everybody. She is like constantly like in the camera telling all this drama. That's me.
I don't know. I think I think it's gonna be interesting to watch back. I think it's gonna be fun.
For sure. No, I think it will be too, but like my diaries, like it's kind of ruthless in some of them. I was like, I'm coming after you. And that is what Victoria would have done in The Bachelorette.
But that's good TV.
Oh, 100%. I'm not saying that it was like wrong. I'm just saying it's good TV and people are gonna love it. I don't necessarily want to fast forward through it. It's more so like, this is gonna be hilarious. I'm actually going to sit there and eat popcorn watching it.
I love that. Okay, and I've asked this to a lot of people as I've been doing these interviews. If you had the ability, or the remote in the movie Click, starring Adam Sandler, to mute somebody, one of your castmates, who would you mute?
No.
And why?
This is where some drama will come out. Honestly, oh man, that's a hard one. This is gonna sound like sketchy, and I'm not trying to be sketchy, but
Game's over.
Right, game's over. I probably would have muted Allie or Mackenzie.
Okay.
Because Mackenzie started becoming really just like entering into stuff, and I was like, she just needs to stop talking. Like, if she stopped talking, she would not hurt herself in this game. Because I think she had good intentions, you know. But she started talking to the wrong people, and those people were telling people things, and that kind of hit her in the wrong place. And then Allie, simply because I think Allie knew she had a lot of power, and she needed to dial it back. Like, I remember going into the diary multiple times being like, okay, I gotta dial it back. Because I didn't want people to show, I didn't want to show people like where I was at in my game.
Awesome. Well, you heard it here. I'm Bryce, here with the last house guest evicted and the final jury member, Tiffany. And it's about time.
I'll be back.
All right, I'm Bryce, and it's about time. I'm here with the runner-up and winner of BB19, Desh and Meredith. Congratulations to you both. You both played an amazing game. So a question that I've been asking everybody for different reasons, I suppose. But tell me why you're here in those seats right now.
I could win the hell out of a veto competition. I think what they've told me is I got 6 in a row, and people did not want me here or did not care if I was here, just preferred other people, and I just made myself a consistent problem by being good at challenges, especially puzzles, and clutching it when the time was right. And like definitely the social relationships were a huge aspect of it. Like all of that plays into the game, the strategy, making the right moves at the right time, and just being able to make those judgment calls. But honestly, without the ability to win those comps, like the votes were never going to side with me for that many rounds in a row. I did not have enough of those social connections, but I had enough combined with that comp ability to get me here. And I'm good at giving speeches also, to be able to get a jury on my side I'm able to do that. And I think even though my game did speak for itself, I believe that I can make a convincing argument for myself as well.
Absolutely, Dash.
I think for me, aware of my strengths and my weaknesses. I think going in, I was very well aware of like what I'm uniquely positioned to do. And I think the last time I played a social game, and I was pretty oblivious to like what was happening and what was going on. I played relatively high, top 5. And so I knew like that is something that I was able to do, and I can leverage those different pieces. And so I think the difference between like this game and that put me in a position ultimately here is having a bit more strategy when thinking about using that information or using those relationships that I gained. I think last time it was just like here for the vibes and here for like trying to find people, but I think there was a bit more like strategy internally for me that I think put me in a position where I'm sitting here.
Yeah. Absolutely. So I know this is kind of a unique situation in which you two were almost forced to become allies when Dash nominated you, and it was kind of it was. I think it's going to be really interesting to watch. Kind of the trust built between you two.
It's such an unlikely friendship.
Yeah,
Like usually when
absolutely.
someone nominates you, often that turns a relationship
Yeah, absolutely.
hostile,
Yeah.
whether it had been friendly or just neutral before. But we are both just so on the same page about being like open and honest and valuing that from another person that we were getting that from each other. And it was just the first time all day we'd had a one-on-one conversation. And so just having the availability to make that connection made all the difference for us. And I understood the reasoning. I understood that I was also pretty safe in that situation. So not feeling threatened by it and not taking it personally and just using that as an opportunity made a huge difference for us. And like people not really expecting us to respond that way, let that be something that was more under the radar. And I don't think it was always a priority for either of us, considering like other relationships we had, but it was still something we did continue to work at and maintain for the rest of the game from that point. So I think it'll be really fun to watch that people would not expect from the beginning for us two to be sitting here when like we don't even interact the first several rounds, but like once we got it, then that was something like we knew we were always going to be on the same page even when we weren't. Like it was just still going to be open and honest.
No, 100%. I think for me, like I think at that point, like I mentioned, like feeling where the house was and where the house like was kind of going towards, and I think like seeing Meredith really try to make a name for herself, be like, no, we're separated, all these different pieces. And I had mentioned like you're someone that I did not necessarily know up until that point, and I had a connection with, and being upfront, all those different pieces, and then saying like, okay, like I hear what you're calling, and I'm going to receive that, and I'm going to reciprocate that, and if what you're saying is true, what I feel in your cries and all these different points, I'm going to take a moment and take a chance and give you the fighting chance that you deserve to do that, and hopefully that will come off and put me in a place where that's beneficial to me, and I think we both took like a big chance with each other, and I think we both held our end of the bargain.
I mean, and it definitely paid off for both of you.
For sure. It's been probably my by far most successful instance of something I've done in other games, of telling people when I didn't have a clear path forward, like my loyalty is available to you.
Right.
All you have to do is accept that from me, and it's yours, and we are there. And often in the past, people have been like, neat, and just sort of overlooked that, despite the fact that like I am a competitor and I can be an asset and a really good ally to have. People have just sort of preferred to keep things on their own trajectory and not involve me. But you sort of saying like, okay, let's work with that. It makes a huge difference, and I hope now people have learned their lesson. This is what you've missed out on. But yeah, just you taking up that offer was for me like something I had been looking for, and I think almost every game I've played before, someone to hear me out when I said like my loyalty will be yours if you want it, and just saying like, all right, let's see where we go. It makes all the difference.
Absolutely. So a question I've been asking a lot of people is if you had the capability, you know, the moment the game ended with you two being announced as the winner and runner-up, if you could go back and hit rewind and change one conversation, one vote, one competition, what would you change? And give me a little reason why.
I think for me, I think it would be my vote against Mackenzie.
Mm-hmm.
I think I didn't have an opportunity to reconcile that where I was voting.
Mm-hmm.
There wasn't an opportunity to have a conversation in between like when voting was happening. Mm-hmm. And last time we had chatted and had a conversation, you know, I was like, hey, you know, you're not someone that I'm going for all those different pieces. But of course, feeling the vibe change, you know, checking in with different people and like kind of understanding where the house was going. Like, I'm here for you, but I'm not putting a target on my back for you because you have one on your back. And so I think that is probably like a replay moment that I would go back and say like, hey, I wanna have this, you know, very open conversation with you about this is now where my vote is, and if there was an opportunity, I would have taken it.
Absolutely. What about you, Mary?
Thinking about it, nothing really stands out to me because obviously like the moves I made got me where I wanted
Exactly.
to be.
Okay, that is kind of a hard question to ask both of you because it did get you very to the farthest end of the game.
Yeah, but I think similarly, like an emotional answer would be, I know that Allie felt sort of blindsided, but the thing is for me, like there was not much I could do in that situation because if I was not the person she trusted, she really didn't have any faith in me and like was not planning to work with me, and I was up on the block against her, and she was certainly surprised, and we talked, and she was saying that she assumed I was going to use the veto on myself and was sort of fishing for information, and I mostly didn't say anything. I think I said something like, I'm generally a cautious person, and that would be the safer bet. And I think people can hear that as a, yes, I will be doing that, and it certainly was not that. But just not giving her any information in that instance when that was the thing that could have at least eased that transition, if not saved her, but I knew she had the rewind she could have used on herself. At some point if she got the information at the right time, and so I just couldn't risk it, but I do wish that had not been as jarring for her.
Absolutely. Another question I've been kind of asking is on the topic, on the theme with Click. If once you go back and watch this season, once Taylor edits it, makes it fun, makes it campy, does all his magic with it. What is something that you might find yourself fast forwarding through?
Probably the very first half.
Okay.
I think my game and my confidence changed when I had a bit of power. I think really like my energy and dynamic changed once I held that first HOH. And it was very decisive, very clear. I think that set a huge tone for myself. Where I think before that, I think people thought I was like floating in the background. Of course, there were things happening. There were like people I was like reading and like getting things on, and so I think I would probably like skip past where I'm like girl in the back and get to the action where I'm like one at a time, mama. Like you come in, we're gonna have a conversation, we're gonna go, and I think that really changed the dynamic of the game.
I will say I think that round as a whole represents a good tonal shift for the game for the entire season. Not only for your gameplay, for your relationship together, but I think that's when you notice things start picking up. So what about you, Meredith? What would you fast forward through?
I'm gonna be honest, things that do not involve me.
I mean, there's a fair answer. I think there's a fair answer.
And not just like seeing myself on screen, though I do have the vanity for that, but like I do enjoy hearing what people had been saying about me and going and verifying like, so who was saying this stuff? Like how much did they really want me out or just were willing to put me up because of just the way the chips were falling? And just seeing like how people did actually feel and what was said about me in those rooms I was not in. But like there are just some slower moments and conversations that like have nothing to do with me. When I know the outcome of it, I don't need to hear like other people parse through like, well, when it's this person versus this person and like like round one is a great example. It's certainly not the only one, but between like Bowen and Oscar at the time, I was like, I have zero data.
Right.
I voted for Oscar, which I think is hilarious considering how much of an asset he was to me for the rest of the game. But for me, it was like
Yeah,
I could have
absolutely.
seen myself doing that with either of them. And Bowen like spoke to me in a group and was like, I will be ride or die with the people who want me around. And I was like, that's the kind of vibe I'm sending
Right.
out. And so just because I heard him say that specifically
Yeah.
was why I voted for Oscar. But yeah, no, those scenes where it's like, I know the outcome. I don't really know exactly what these people had to say to each other about it, but that's okay. I don't need to know.
I think, and that's a very unique experience that a lot of people watching, when they don't have the opportunity to play these kinds of games, they kind of, I guess, miss out on. It's a fun experience of you go through playing it, and you get this one side of the story right, and you go back and watch it, and you're like, so that's what this person said. So that's what was actually
That's how
happening.
that rumor got started.
Exactly.
And like, oh, it was on purpose that misunderstanding
Right.
happened. All
It's
those
kind
little
of
things.
you get an extra. You have that extra in-depth view of what happened because you lived it, and then you're going back and watching it, and you're getting to see everybody else's experience too, which is really interesting. Well, thank you both for making what I know is going to be a super fun season to watch. I can't wait to watch it. But that's all I've got for this season of Big Brother 19. I'm Bryce here with once again the winner and runner-up of Big Brother 19, Meredith and Dash, and it's about time.
Click.
Perfect.